Welcome to Real Healing with Elena. Hi, I'm Elena, a board-certified naturopathic doctor, functional medicine certified health coach, and someone who spent years doing everything right and yet still felt terrible. This podcast exists because healing is not as complicated as the wellness industry wants you to think, but it is more layered than most people are told. Every week, we go deep into root cause health, detox, drainage, mold, nervous system, supplements, mindset, spirit, the whole picture. Because your body, your mind, and your spirit are not separate problems. They're all one system, and guess what? They heal together. If you're functioning, but know you're not thriving, you're in the right place. Now, let's dive in.
Hi friends, today we are talking hormones and specifically we're diving into perimenopause and menopause. However, if you are earlier in your cycling years or you are a man, don't necessarily exclude this because I'm going to be going over the whole hormone life cycle for sex hormones and you apply no matter what stage you're in, even if you're a man and testosterone, you go through the same stage. So stick with me, I think you might find today interesting. But before I dive in, I want to ask you something. How much do you know about how your hormones actually work? Not just the symptoms, not the lab values, but the actual process. How these sex hormones get made, how they travel through the body, how they get cleared and eliminated, and what happens if any of these stages break down. If your honest answer is, well, I don't really know that much, then you're not alone. I certainly wasn't. I didn't know until I went back to school trying to figure out what the heck was wrong with me. It's not your fault. I feel like these days, nobody really shows us. We get told our hormones are declining or we have hormonal issues or hormone imbalances, and here's something to manage the symptoms. But I don't feel like we're ever told or shown the full picture. And this is why that matters, is that when you understand the hormone life cycle and how it actually works, the entire circle or the entire cycle, not just the production piece, I feel like you stop feeling confused and overwhelmed by symptoms and start seeing those symptoms as information. And then when you understand the whole process, you can understand exactly what your body is trying to tell you through those symptoms. And that understanding is what this episode is all about today. And I promise you, by the time we are done, you're going to look at your body completely differently. Every time I share this with a client, friends, or family, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Why don't they teach us that? I don't know. So I'm teaching you today. If you don't know me, I'm Elena. I'm a naturopathic doctor, functional medicine, health coach, and I specialize in drainage and detox, body, mind, and spirit. And I am personally in perimenopause myself. Today, I'm going to show you everything I know about how this cycle works and what breaks the cycle. And that's where symptoms begin that we know of as perimenopause or menopause. And I do want you to know that there is a version of this transition that feels nothing like we've been told to expect. You can have energy. You can have clarity. You can have a body that is working with you through this transition. And understanding this hormone life cycle is the first step in getting there. I know because I'm living it. So before I get into the science, I want to share something personal because I think my own story is actually the clearest illustration of everything I'm about to teach you today. So I'm 46 years old. I'll be 47 in a couple of months this summer. I'm, as I mentioned, a naturopathic doctor and a drainage and detox specialist. And guess what? I have one ovary. Let me say that again. I have one ovary, theoretically half the production ever since 2010. Yep, back April of 2010, I was 17 weeks pregnant when I had developed a dermoid cyst on my right ovary that kept twisting and cutting off blood supply. It was incredibly painful, the most painful thing I've ever experienced, and ended up in the hospital multiple times. Eventually, there was no other choice. So at 17 weeks pregnant, I went in for surgery and had my ovary and the dermoid cyst removed. My son was born very healthy. I went on to have 3 more pregnancies, 2 more beautiful children, and a miscarriage. But I went into that pregnancy with 2 ovaries, and I came out with 1. So that's what? 2010, now we're 2026, 16 years of having 1 ovary. Now, here's why I'm telling you this in this episode about the hormone life cycle is because everything that I read and had been told about having only 1 ovary, especially that young, or that early on in my journey, it suggested that my perimenopause and menopause experience should be harder. It should come earlier. My hormone production is theoretically more limited. I should expect symptoms earlier than others and more intensely than the average woman. However, here I am. My cycles have shifted. They're farther apart. They used to be 29 consistently. Now they're getting more like 40 days. But that's it. That's the complete list of my perimenopause symptoms. No hot flashes, no night sweats, no insomnia, no brain fog, no mood crashes, don't have weight that won't move. I certainly don't have anxiety that comes out of nowhere, and anxiety is something that I used to struggle with in my earlier 30s, but not anymore because I've done the work. So I'm one ovary, almost 47 years old. I am in perimenopause, and I genuinely feel better than I have in my entire life. That is not luck, and that is certainly not genetics. My genetics are not great. That is the hormone life cycle working in a way that it was designed to work, in a body that has been given what it needs to complete every stage of that cycle. It's because I have done the work. I have cleared my body and created a solid foundation, body, mind, and spirit, before I ever walked into this transition. And so I'm enjoying this transition that I can get into later more easily than so many of my friends and community members and clients that come in my door. So here's the other piece of my story that matters even more. About 15 years ago, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. Yep, hypothyroidism, underfunctioning thyroid, and I was put on thyroid medication. I was on it for 6 years, and I had only one goal at the time. My doctor thought it was very strange, but was willing to support me. I wanted to get off of thyroid medication. Not because someone told me it could, but something deep inside me said that if my body is actually working the way that it's supposed to, the way that God designed it to, that it should be able to regulate this on its own. And for every 3 to 6 months, my doctor would test me, and guess what? Slowly over time, we were able to lower the doses until I got a message on April 30th of 2019. I was done. My thyroid was great, and I threw that pill bottle away in a trash can at a restaurant, and I even took a picture of it and posted it on Instagram. I was so excited. So after 6 years of being on thyroid medication, I was able to get off, and I've never had to go back on it. That was 7 years ago. I didn't know then what I know now about the hormone life cycle, about drainage pathways, the gut connection, what a backed up liver does to thyroid function. I was just following an instinct that was deep inside of me, that if I clean the body, if I support every stage of the cycle, the body will find its way back. And it did. And it does every single time. That's what this episode is all about. Not just understanding the cycle, but understanding how to support it and what becomes possible when you do. This transition does not have to be a crisis. I'm the proof, and so are all the clients that I work with every day. When the cycle works, the body works, even if the hormones are declining. So let me show you how it works. All right, the bigger picture. I want to start with the full picture before I go into each piece, because most people have only ever been shown half of it. I know I was. And that missing half is where everything goes wrong. It's what I found. So I was at a clinical conference recently, and I photographed a diagram that I really found fascinating. And it just, for me, was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've always talked about, but I could just see it so clearly. So I'm going to walk you through it and describe it to you today. But imagine a circle. In the center of that circle are the words homeostasis and regulation. That's the goal. That is what a healthy body is always trying to do. Heck, that's what your body is always trying to do. And that is what a healthy hormone system is always trying to do. It is always trying to regulate itself, stay in balance, and self-correct. Now, around that center, moving clockwise, are 4 stages. Each one feeds the next stage, each one depending on the stage before it. So we have production, circulation and action, breakdown and metabolites, and then elimination. This is the life cycle of our sex hormones. So I'm going to break them down. Most of the conversations about perimenopause and menopause focused almost entirely on stage 1, the production. Hormones are declining, add more, replace them, let's manage the symptoms. But stages 2, 3, and 4, how the hormones travel through the body, how they get broken down after they've been used, and then how they actually leave the body. Now, those stages are almost never talked about and, frankly, the most important. And they are where most of the dysfunction lives, from my experience and from what the research is now showing. So let me walk you through all 4 stages because when you see the whole picture, I think everything else is going to make sense for you. All right, so stage 1, production. Before I dive into production, I want to ask you a question. If any of this sounds familiar, are you exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix? Like you got a good night's sleep, but you still wake up tired? Does your body feel like it's running on empty no matter how much rest you got? Do you feel like everything costs more energy than it should? Like you're pushing through every single day? That is often a stage 1 issue. The body does not have what it needs to actually produce hormones efficiently, and it is telling you what hormones actually are. So let's start with what sex hormones actually are. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. These are steroid hormones, and steroid hormones are fat-based. They are built from cholesterol. I know we have spent decades being told cholesterol is bad, but cholesterol is the raw material your body uses to build your sex hormones. Without adequate amounts of healthy fats and cholesterol, production of these hormones suffers before we even get to the next stage. Your endocrine glands, the ovaries, the adrenals, thyroid, pituitary, they are all factories. They take that raw cholesterol and convert it into estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and they hand those hormones off to the bloodstream to begin their journey. Now, here's what most people don't know. Making sex hormones is very expensive on the body. It requires a significant amount of cellular energy. And cellular energy is produced by your mitochondria, these little power plants inside every cell. When your mitochondria are struggling, which they are in most people carrying a heavy toxic burden these days, the body doesn't have enough energy to run all of the processes at full capacity, and then hormone production is one of the first things to suffer. But it gets even more specific. Hormone production does not just need energy, it needs cofactors, specific nutrients that act as the tools in the factory. It needs magnesium, zinc, B6, iron. Without these cofactors, the production line slows or stops entirely. And where do we get those cofactors? From the food we eat, which means they have to be properly absorbed. And even if you're supplementing with them, those supplements have to be properly absorbed, which means the gut has to be working, which means if the gut is compromised, and in most women it already is before they ever reach perimenopause, the raw materials for hormone production are being lost before they ever even reach the factory. I hope that makes sense. This is why hormone decline is never just about age. It's about whether the entire system supporting production has what it needs to function. Do you have the mitochondrial function that you need, the energy you need, and do you have the cofactors? Did your body actually absorb those cofactors from your food or your supplements? A lot of times the answer is no to both of those. And so production is lost not because of your age, but because of dysfunction in those two areas. So here's something I want you to really sit with. Sex hormones, particularly estrogen and progesterone, are not just reproductive hormones. They are systemic buffers. They protect the gut lining. They support beneficial bacteria. They regulate inflammation. They buffer the nervous system. They protect the brain and the bones. So for decades, they have been quietly doing all of that work in the background, compensating for toxic burden, gut degradation, leaky gut, mitochondrial stress, mitochondrial dysfunction. Those hormones were holding things in balance that would otherwise show themselves as symptoms. So when these hormones start to decline in perimenopause or menopause, that buffer that we had starts to thin. And when that buffer thins, now any of this underlying dysfunction that the hormones were quietly compensating for, now it shows itself. This underlying dysfunction is revealed. And this is the word I want you to hold on to: unmasked. Perimenopause or menopause did not cause the gut dysbiosis. It did not cause the mitochondrial dysfunction. It did not cause the toxic burden or the inflammation that was quietly building. It revealed it. The mask came off. So we are now unmasking dysregulation in the body when those hormones decline. What had been hidden underneath is now impossible to ignore. You can see it. It's been unmasked. This is why some women sail through this transition and others feel like their body is falling apart. It's not about how much estrogen they produce. It's about what was already happening in the body that those hormones are now declining in. I hope that makes sense. This is why when I start working with a client, the first question is never, what hormones do you need, or what are your hormone levels per se? My first question is, what has this transition revealed? What has been building underneath that the hormones have been compensating for? That is what we need to address first, because you cannot out-hormone, out-supplement, out-peptide a body that has not been given the foundations to use these things. So when you understand that perimenopause is revealing something rather than causing something, now it stops being a diagnosis and it starts being information. And information is something you can actually work with. All right, so let's dive into stage 2. Before I dive in, does any of this sound familiar? Do you get hormone test results back that look normal on paper, but you still feel terrible? Like your doctor says everything looks fine, but your body is telling you something completely different? Well, that could be a stage 2 issue. Hormones being produced, but they're not traveling or being received properly where they need to be. The lab number does not tell if the hormone actually got to where it needed to go. It just told you it was produced. So we have hormones being produced. Now they have to travel. Your hormones are made in endocrine glands, and they need to reach the targeted tissues, the heart, the brain, the bones, the muscles, the reproductive organs. Every tissue in the body has hormone receptors waiting for these signals. But here's the problem. Blood is mostly water, and as we discussed, sex hormones are fat-based, made from cholesterol. Fat and water do not mix. So in order for these hormones to travel through the bloodstream, a sex hormone that is fat-based has to bind to a protein. Think of that protein like a bus. The hormone gets on the bus and it's going to travel through the bloodstream, get dropped off at its destination, do its job, and then it has to be cleared when that job is done. Without the bus, the hormone can't travel. Without adequate protein carriers available, hormones cannot circulate properly, even if production is completely normal. Now, what affects protein carrier availability? Liver function, nutrition, inflammation, stress, all things impacted by toxic burden and poor gut health. So when hormones do reach their target tissues and deliver their signal, that's when you feel them working. The mood regulation, the bone protection, the cardiovascular support, the cognitive clarity. This is estrogen and progesterone doing the work they were designed to do. When circulation is working, hormones reach where they need to go. The brain gets the signal. The bones get the signal. The mood stabilizes. The energy is there. This is the body functioning the way it was designed to function, even if hormones are declining. All right, so let's move on to stage 3, breakdown in metabolites. Does any of this sound familiar? Do you wake up between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning? Not necessarily because you have to go to the bathroom, but you're just wide awake. Your mind is going. It's so hard to go back to sleep. This is your liver. This is liver time hard at work. In traditional Chinese medicine, that 1 to 3 a.m. window is the liver's peak processing window. It is also when it's processing emotions like anger, frustration, resentment. And there's real physiology behind it. When the liver is overburdened, when it's overworking because it's backed up, it literally wakes you up because it's working so hard. And that's when you get hot flashes, night sweats, that wired but tired feeling in the evening. That's all often related to stage 3. The liver is backed up and the backed up hormones are recirculating. So after a hormone has done its job, it has to be processed. This is stage 3. And this is where the liver becomes absolutely central. Your liver takes used hormones and runs them through phase 1 and phase 2 processing. Phase 1 breaks the hormone down into intermediate compounds, and then phase 2 packages them, converting them from fat soluble into water soluble so that the body can actually release them. It conjugates them, essentially wraps them up for safe removal. It's like if you're in the kitchen, which is right behind me, taking all of your garbage, putting it in a garbage bag to take it out to the trash can. This is what's happening. The liver is going to take all that used waste, what's no longer needed, package it up in the garbage bag so it could be taken out to the trash. Now, breaking hormones down takes even more energy and more cofactors than it did to make them. So we need more mitochondrial function. We need more magnesium, more B vitamins, more zinc, more liver capacity. So if your liver is already working overtime, processing environmental chemicals, pesticides, medications, stress, hormones, alcohol, processed foods, molds, heavy metals, the list goes on. Now the hormone breakdown queue gets backed up too. Processed hormones end up sitting in line waiting to be cleared. So think about the garbage truck. You fill your bins outside throughout the week, like I just talked about, we take it outside. But if that truck never comes and takes it away, like it's supposed to, what happens when that truck stops coming? The bins overflow, the bags pile up outside, and then you have rats, flies, a whole freaking mess. The trash didn't become more toxic, it just stopped being removed. That is what happens when the liver processing gets backed up. Used hormones that should be packaged and removed are sitting in the system. They're your garbage just piling up, sitting, waiting for the truck to show up and not showing up. Sitting hormones, particularly estrogen, get reabsorbed and then recirculated in the body. That recirculating uncleared estrogen drives symptoms. This is why liver support is not a wellness trend. It is a basic hormone physiology. The liver is essential at stage 3. Frankly, liver support is essential for life, but here we're talking about hormones, so we're going to roll with that. If the liver is overburdened, everything downstream suffers. This is why in my work with clients, we always assess the liver function as part of the foundational picture. Because a backed up liver means backed up hormones. Backed up hormones means symptoms that no amount of hormone replacement will fully resolve. You have to address the processing piece first. When the liver is supported and stage 3 is working, hormones get processed cleanly. The intermediates don't linger. The packaging happens, and the body is ready for the final and most critical stage, which is stage 4, elimination. So does any of this sound familiar? Weight in the hips, the belly, or the thighs that won't move no matter how well you eat or how much you exercise. Breast tenderness before your period or all the time. Mood swings that feel disproportionate. Bloating and puffiness, irregular heavy periods. Anxiety that lives in your body. These are estrogen-dominant symptoms. And estrogen dominance is almost never about making too much estrogen. It's about failing to clear the estrogen that you already have. That is a stage 4 breakdown. This is the stage that I feel like nobody talks about, and in my clinical experience, it is the stage where most of the dysfunction lives and also creates dysfunction throughout the rest of the body beyond just the hormones. Stage 4 is elimination. Once the liver has broken down and packaged up the hormone metabolites, they have to actually leave the body. That garbage truck needs to come and actually pick them up. It does this through bile and stool, through urine. Now, bile, I found this really interesting. This is the piece that kind of changes everything. It's essential. Your liver releases the packaged hormone metabolites into bile. Bile is part of the liver and your gallbladder function. Bile carries processed waste, including these used hormone metabolites, into the gut, into the intestines for removal through the stool. I thought this was interesting that bile is made up of a lot of things, but one of them is cholesterol, the same raw material your body uses to make sex hormones at stage 1. Cholesterol builds the hormones, and cholesterol builds the bile that removes them. The same molecule beginning and the end of the cycle. I found that very interesting. When bile flow is sluggish, which is in most people with a backed up liver, hormone metabolites that should be leaving are not leaving. They get reabsorbed, they get recirculated, and that is estrogen dominance. Again, not from making too much estrogen, but from failing to complete stage 4 to eliminate them. The gut is stage 4. So once bile delivers the package of metabolites into the gut, into the intestines to leave, the gut has to complete the job, move them through and out. A healthy gut does this efficiently, but a gut that is dysbiotic, that is broken down, degraded, and leaky can actually reactivate hormone metabolites that were supposed to leave. Certain bacteria produce an enzyme that unwraps the packaged estrogen and sends it back into circulation. The liver did its job, the bile did its job, and then the gut undid all of it. This is why a daily bowel movement is essential. It's not negotiable. You must have at least one bowel movement every single day. 2 is ideal. More than 3 can have its own risk. But if stool is not moving every day, processed hormone metabolites are sitting there reabsorbing, contributing to the very symptoms most women are told to just accept. This is also true for all sort of toxins and waste. They just get reabsorbed. We have to leave. Constipation is not a digestive inconvenience. In the context of your hormone life cycle and toxic burden, it is a stage 4 failure. So I'm going to have another episode that dives much deeper into the gut hormone connection specifically because it's very important and very fascinating. But I want you to understand here at stage 4 why the gut matters so much to your hormone health. So the gut is not the only exit door. Your body has an entire drainage network system. We have the lymphatic system collecting cellular waste. We have the kidneys filtering blood and the skin releasing through sweat. All of these have to be open and working for stage 4 to complete itself, for elimination to fully occur. And here's the principle that drives everything I do. Drainage has to be open before anything else can clear. Before detox, before gut healing, before hormone support. If these exit doors are closed, nothing gets out. You push things into a backed up system, and then they just recirculate, making symptoms so much worse, not better. This is where my work begins with every single client. Before we touch hormones, before we touch gut healing, really before we touch anything else, we open drainage pathways. We get the gut moving, we support bile flow, we support the lymph, we support the kidneys, and we give the cells the energy they need to do their job. Because a system with open exit doors can actually start clearing, and a system that can clear can actually heal, and a system that can heal can actually work as it was designed to. God knew what he was doing. He created something magnificent that works fantastic given the right conditions. When stage 4 is working, when elimination is complete, the hormone cycle actually closes. Processed metabolites leave. The liver gets relief. The estrogen that was recirculating stops recirculating. And symptoms that felt permanent start to ease. Not because you added anything, but because you finally completed the cycle. So, full circle. Let's come back to that image of the circle again. The center with homeostasis and regulation. The body is always trying to get there. Self-regulate, self-correct, come back into balance. And now you can see the full picture. Stage 1, production. Hormones built from cholesterol by healthy endocrine glands, powered by functioning mitochondria, supported by cofactors, from a gut that can actually absorb them from food or supplements. Stage 2, circulation. Hormones bound to a protein that carries and travels them to targeted tissues, delivering their signals, doing the protective work they were designed to do. Stage 3, breakdown. The liver processing used hormones through 2 phases, converting them for safe removal, requiring energy, cofactors, and a liver that is not already overwhelmed and backed up. In stage 4, elimination. Bile carrying those metabolites into the gut moving them out, the full drainage network completing the job. Every exit door open and working. When all 4 stages are supported, the body regulates itself. Hormones decline naturally as they're supposed to, but the body still functions at a level it was designed for. The symptoms are not there because the system is completing the cycle, so the symptoms just go away. When any stage breaks down, the symptoms are not random. They are a direct readout, a message telling you which stage is struggling. So now you can read them. Now you can understand what your body is trying to tell you. Exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, that's often stage 1, the mitochondria and the production piece. Lab values that look normal, but you still feel terrible, that's often stage 2, the circulation and delivery piece. Waking up between that 1 and 3 a.m., hot flashes, night sweats, wired and tired, that's often stage 3, the liver processing piece. Weight in the hips or the belly, the thighs that doesn't move, breast tenderness, bloating, mood swings, anxiety in the body. That's often stage 4, estrogen dominance from a failed elimination. So when you understand the cycle, you can read the symptoms. And when you can read the symptoms, you can address the actual stage that needs support, not just manage what shows up on the surface. This is the shift from taking you from my hormones are declining and I just have to manage it to I can see which stage of my cycle needs support and I can actually address it. I can do something about it. That is empowerment. That is what understanding your own body gives you. I want to be honest with you about something. Everything I've shared in this episode, the 4 stages, the mitochondria connection, the liver, the drainage, the bile, all of that information is available to you. It is all out there. It is in research papers, conferences, presentations, trainings, naturopathic training programs, webinars. It is out there. The information exists. It is available to everyone. What took me 10 years to figure out is how it all connects. Which piece to address first, in what order, with what support, for which body, because every body is different. Every toxic burden is different. Every stage that is struggling is different. I spent a decade and way more money than I care to admit figuring that out through my own healing journey, through mold toxicity, Lyme, multiple chemical sensitivities, chronic fatigue. Oh my gosh, the list goes on and on and on. Through hypothyroidism diagnosis that I reversed. Not my doctor, me. He just offered the labs and gave me the thumbs up that I could get off. Through perimenopause with 1 ovary and 0 symptoms. Through working with clients whose bodies were showing me what the research was finally saying. And here's what I've learned to do. I assess all 4 stages using muscle testing to understand where the body's own intelligence says the breakdown is. Your body knows. We can tap in and find that out. In every evaluation, I assess drainage, I assess detox, I assess cellular energy, gut function, hormones, and more, not as separate systems, but as one interconnected cycle. And then I try to find out where it gets stuck and what do we need to do to address it in the right order. With drainage, it's cellular energy coming first always, because you cannot clear what you cannot drain, and you cannot heal without the energy to do it. Then we move to clearing the toxic burden, the heavy metals, the mold, the pathogens, the parasites, which simultaneously frees the mitochondria to function. And then once the terrain is clean, we seal it up. We seal it all up. We rebuild the gut lining. We restore the microbiome. We let the estrobolome do its job. Now I'm going to dive more into the estrobolome in my next episode about the gut hormone connection. But we clear the body, then we seal it in that order, because you can't seal a dirty system. You can't heal a dirty body. You just lock problems in place. So you can absolutely take the information from this episode and start supporting your own cycle today. Start with hydration. Support bioflow. One of the easiest and almost free, warm lemon water first thing in the morning. A big cup of it will help flush your system. Move your body every day for your lymph. Don't have to be big, rigorous exercise. Just move. Reduce what's coming in. Reduce the toxic burdens. These things matter and they will move the needle. But if you want to shorten your path, if you want someone to look at your specific cycle, your specific breakdown, and build a personalized protocol around what your body actually needs and what order, that's what I do. You can book a consultation with me and we can dive into you specifically. That's how my clients are moving through this transition without the symptoms that most women and most of their friends are told to just accept as perimenopause and menopause. This work is available to you. The information is here. The shortcut is working with me directly. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like in the link below, because I have a free training for you. So I want to leave you with something before I send you off. Your body is not failing you. It has never been failing you. Every symptom you have experienced, every hot flash, every sleepless night, every brain fog moment, every time you walked into a room and can't remember why you're there, every pound that wouldn't move, that was your body completing an incomplete cycle, and those were messages. And those messages point at a stage that needs support. They're asking for something specific. Your body has communicating with you this whole time in the only language that it has, the only way that it can. Symptoms. Symptoms are your body's communication tool. And now you speak a little bit more of the language of your body. You know the 4 stages. You know which stage produces which symptoms. You know what the body needs at each one. You know that the problem is almost never the hormones themselves, it's the system that is supposed to manage them. That knowledge is yours now, and nobody can take that from you. The next episode, as I mentioned, we're going to go deeper into stage 4, specifically the gut hormone connection, the estrobolome, what a broken gut does to your hormone picture, and why this is the missing piece in almost every perimenopause and menopause conversation happening right now. So make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss it. I want to say thank you so much for being here. Please share this with someone who needs it. I feel like this is such important information that we understand our bodies. Whether you have symptoms or not, we should understand how our bodies work, and it's just not talked about. So help me spread the word and leave a comment. I read every one. Hope you have a great day. Love you and have a blessed one. Bye. Thanks for spending this time with me today. I truly appreciate it. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone else who might need to hear it. That's how the message reaches those that it's meant for. And if what we talked about today got you thinking about what might actually be going on in your own body, I made something for you. It's a free training called Stop Managing Symptoms, Start Living. And it's the most complete explanation of my work that I have ever put together. I go over why chronic symptoms persist, even when you seem to be doing everything right, what might be missing in other approaches, and what becomes possible when your body finally has the right conditions to heal. The link is in the show notes below. Go watch it. I think you'll really like it, and it'll change how you see what's been going on. Don't forget, subscribe wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And I'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, take care of yourself. You deserve it, and you are absolutely worth it. Have a blessed day.